Hey everyone. So for this episode we played Final Fantasy. This is probably my favorite JRPG, at least for the Nintendo. It was the first one that I had ever played, the first one I had ever really seen. I had seen role-playing games before, mostly on the computer, but I hadn't really seen anything like this until, I actually sat down and my brother borrowed the game from a neighbor and I hadn't heard of it before, so I just started playing it one day, and I, accidentally ended up saving over his file, which, I'll talk about later on, but it was just sort of a weird thing. Anyway, go and you save a princess from a crazy knight, basically. I never really found out exactly what Garland was. It's one of those weird mysteries in the game that you're probably never really going to get an answer to. It's like, is he a landed noble? Did he have his own city? Or was he just. I think he was just like a knight in the court who happened to be like the best knight ever and then went crazy and left. I'm skipping over some stuff, but it's fine for the most part. Anyway, you beat Garland, and if you had never played like a role playing game before, you might be like, well, save the princess, I'm out, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave. Uh, I think I've heard of a few people that have done that, but no, that's the first point where it just sort of like opens the entire world up for you, or at least opens up a much larger part of the world. You cross a bridge, you go to another town, and you beat up a bunch of pirates, which kind of weird that they were just sort of allowed to take over this town, but whatever. They give you their ship, which seems like a fair trade. I mean, you kill all of them and then you get their ship. You then sail down, meet some elves, find out that the prince has been like cursed with sleep. Whatever, fine. You then go and you talk to another elf who is a bad guy, but you don't know that at the time. He tells you to go into the marsh cave to get a crown. I'm not sure why the hell the crown was in there and not, with the prince to begin with. I'm sure it's explained if you talk to all the other little elves and whatnot. But anyway, you beat up a bunch of wizards, get the crown, bring it back to the bad guy, who, boom, turns out to be Astos, the leader of the Dark Elves. You kill him after a relatively annoying boss fight, but whatever. And then you don't give the crown back yet. You then have to go up to a witch, which, by the way, there is a witch in this game. She's blind and needs a crystal eye. You give her the crystal eye, and then you get a magical herb, you give it back to the prince. He gives you a mystical key. You use that to find dynamite to give it to the elves. Sorry, give it to the dwarves. And they blow a hole in the canal, and then boom, the world opens up again. So after you've done all of that crazy stuff, you go over and you fight Lich, and you do the class change, which sort of seems like a cosmetic redesign, but it is kind of cool when you look at it, because it does change around a lot of your characters. You do that by getting the rat's tail out of this weird castle. You then come back, you talk to Bahamut again, and he makes basically your fighter into a knight, your thief into a ninja, your white wizard into white mage into a white wizard, black mage into black wizard, and if you have the red mage becomes a red wizard, so on and so forth. You then go fight Carrie, who really looks cool. I love the designs for the different fiends and whatnot. You then have to get Oxhail in order to go fight the Kraken. You do that by grabbing this fairy, unleashing her. She draws the Oxhail from this wonderful little pond. You fight the Kraken, which, whatever. It's fine. Most of these boss battles aren't too crazy when you really get into them. So, you do that. You then get the Chime to go into the Mirage Tower, and you fight Timeit. Timeit looks really awesome. He's probably the best designed out of all the fiends. He's really like the toughest battle you come to at this point. Most of them you could probably breeze through depending on what your level was. You then go talk to all the Sky Warriors who had been turned into bats, and they give you like a rundown of basically everything that has happened. They got their ass kicked a couple hundred years ago, got turned into bats, and they've basically been flying around. The weirdest thing is, when you go to learn the language Leafish, they know that the Sky Warriors, who were part of their little group of people, they know that the Sky Warriors are bats. they just don't seem to give a crap. I don't know why. They could probably have come and saved them, but whatever. So you go through the Black Orb, you go back in the time loop, and you fight all of the fiends again. You fight Lich, which I didn't get to talk about, but he's got a really cool design as well. You then have to go on, you fight Carrie, you fight Kraken, you fight Timeit, and then you come up to the very end. Leading up into all this is probably the most crazy thing out there, because I'd never really experienced like a boss rush mode when I was playing one of these RPGs before. And that's really what this feels like. You've defeated the 4 fiends, and then you have to come back, you fight them all over again. Okay, fair enough, whatever. They are stronger this time around. I'm not sure how that worked out, because you're technically back in time when you fight these, so it's kind of a little weird. But, whatever. It's a pretty good fight to begin with. What I really like is the fact that you do have a spell to get out of this, so that if you do go into the Fiend Temple at the very end, and you just find yourself like totally overwhelmed, you can always use the spell Exit, which the White Wizard and the Red Wizard can get. It's pretty awesome that you can do that, but it sort of leads to some weirdness, where it's like, okay, I exited the temple, and now I'm outside of it, but am I outside of it in the past, or am I outside of it in the future? It's a little weird once you actually look at that. It's something that I've never really thought about, but it is kind of strange when you talk about those sorts of things. You get a lot of weapons in this game, and it's kind of hard to know which ones are best to use unless you go through sort of like the painstaking way of just comparing your stats and equipping and unequipping the weapons. And that's one thing that I haven't really talked about yet. The 2 inventories, one for your armor and one for your weapons, they are absolutely tiny. If you have a fighter who becomes a knight, he needs all 4 spots in his inventory for his armor. And that's all you get for each character is 4 spots. So if you have your ninja, he needs all 4 spots too. Your 2 wizards can get away with it. And I should talk about my build I did for my party here. This is like the most basic party you can do. It's well-rounded, and it's really easy if you want to just get into the game and sort of play around with certain things. I have done some like more experimental ones. I've never really used the black belt, who is really a monk. I don't know why they decided to call him a black belt, but whatever. Anyway, once you do these things, it's really cool because you can just sort of play around with different parties and whatnot. I've done 2 fighters and 2 thieves. I've made it pretty far in that one, but you just run into that problem of you don't have enough magic to actually heal your party. And that's another big issue with this, is the magic points you get are very small. I think in this one, for the NES version, I think the max is 9, but I'm not really sure. And you only get 9 chances for each spell. And you also only get 99 heals, and there's no like super potion in this game at all, which is a real problem. So this leads into the big fight with Chaos at the very end of the game. I didn't know anything about Chaos going into this way back in like the early 90s when I played this game. But now, having played it and everything, it's really crazy. Having first seen Chaos, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. He's got this huge sprite, it's really well detailed, it just looks super, super mean. Anyway, having fought him and everything, it was just sort of like, wow, I didn't think that I would be able to beat him, because you see some of the other monsters and everything like that, you can see how many hit points they have when you look into like the manuals and whatnot. And you see Chaos, and I think it was like 2,000 hit points or something ridiculous like that. And it was like, oh my god, how the hell am I ever going to get there? But eventually, after like a lot of trying and a lot of effort, you can defeat him, as you can see, and it takes him like 8 million hours to actually like get off the screen and everything like that. But whatever, it's pretty rewarding once you finally get to the very end of the game. So here we are at the very end, and you've done all that, you've defeated Chaos, you've defeated all the fiends, and now you get this really long end sequence.
And if you actually sit through it, it's like a good 6 minutes and whatnot. And I have to say, it's not bad. I mean, from what I can remember and what I can see, they spelled everything right, so you don't have any of those weird spelling mistakes or anything crazy like that. It really felt when you're playing this game like they actually took a lot of time to get everything right when they were bringing it over to the US. Now, there are some issues with the game overall, and they're pretty much the standard issues you have with every RPG from really the NES and Super NES era, and even into the PlayStation era a little bit. It's that you need to really grind your levels in order to, you know, in order to advance in the game. So whenever you run into a problem that you just can't beat, the answer is usually to just kind of wander around and level up your characters. I've seen some criticism from like some recent reviews and whatnot where it's like, oh, this is just awful, you have to wander around and fight enemies and blah blah blah. Well, that's kind of the way these games are, and it's not bad. I actually really enjoy it sometimes. Mostly because I don't mind just having to sit here and, wander around and kill a bunch of the same monsters over and over. Probably because I'm weird, or maybe it's because I play a lot of these games, and it's a lot of fun for me to do this sort of thing. Back when I was first playing this game, and this is where I'm probably going to go off on some tangents in this, and I apologize, but, it's just the way it's going to be. My brother absolutely refused to let me play this game when we first borrowed it. We didn't own it until much later, when I was in high school is when I bought the game. And he would always play it with the Game Genie so he could have unlimited money, because getting money in this game is a major pain, because you just have to wander around and kill monsters to get it. So he would always use the Game Genie to have unlimited money in the game, which kind of feels like cheating, but hey, that's what the whole point of the Game Genie is, really. He also really hated it when I would start a new game in this. And that's one of the big issues that I have with the game, is you can only have one save slot at a time. So if he was really far in the game and then I started it up and I accidentally went to an inn and saved my game, it overwrote his game. So that could be a major issue. I'm not sure why they couldn't fit more than one save slot on here, but that would be going to some technical stuff that I have absolutely no idea what the hell it actually is, so sorry about that. It can be really confusing and really convoluted when you first start the game, just because there's so many things that you actually have to do. You have to talk to everybody in these games. You don't have a choice. If you want to figure out where you're going, you have to talk to everybody in a specific town, and they will give you sort of hints and clues to get there. So it can be really confusing once you get to a new spot and you're like, oh my god, where am I supposed to go? And then, you just go on and you talk to people, and eventually you figure out where you need to be. But I can see how, a new player, that would be super annoying. I mean, I'm playing Dragon Quest for really the first time now, and that's kind of the issue that I'm having. I'm like, where the hell am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to be doing? But anyway, guys, that's really it. I have a lot of memories and a lot of nostalgia for this game, but overall, it was a fun experience to come back and play it again. I could pick this game up and play it pretty much any time. This was back when I really, really loved the franchise still. It's kind of soured now. But anyway, yeah, that was pretty much everything with the game.
So I was going to do initially a comparison between the first Dragon Quest and between this, but it was just going to run way too long, and I haven't finished playing Dragon Quest yet. I'm also going to probably butcher it and call it Dragon Warrior a few times, and I'm sorry guys, but that's just what's ingrained in me. It's I've been poisoned by the freaking cover of the damn game. Anyway, I hope you guys liked the episode. If you really hated it, please let me know in the comments below. If you liked it, let me know there as well. If you guys have any recommendations for the next game or the next couple games you guys want me to look at, please let me know down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great day.